remember the day they called me insane, like it was etched into the marrow of my bones. My family, the people I thought would support me, sat in the living room, their faces contorted with disbelief and pity. "You'll disgrace us, you know," my brother said, his voice a mocking whisper, as if invoking the spirits of the very roots I studied. "Researching plants that you think can feel? That's just delusional. I was a forensic botanist, trained to analyze the silent screams of flora, to decipher the stories buried in their roots. I'd tried to explain to them that the plants in abandoned graveyards reacted to human pain, that they thrived on the echoes of anguish. But all I got were scoffs and eye rolls, as if my passion was some embarrassing secret I should hide away. The world I sought to unveil, the hidden pain entwined with the roots of life and death, was a darkness they couldn't fathom. And so, after months of ridicule, I packed my bags and left that suffocating house, vowing to follow my obsession to the ends of the earth. Years passed, each day spent mapping the botanical anomalies of haunted burial sites, meticulously documenting the way these cursed plants seemed to flourish in the presence of sorrow. I ventured into the forgotten corners of our world, where the screams of the past lingered like shadows. I unearthed truths that sent chills down my spine, truths others pretended didn't exist. And then, one day, as I stood in a field of withering black roses, a site where countless bodies had been laid to rest, I finally broke the silence that had kept me at bay. I had discovered something monumental. The plants did not merely react to pain. They absorbed it, twisted it, and transformed it into something darker. I began to garner attention, respect. I had become an expert in botanical hauntology, my name whispered in both reverence and terror. But the more I learned, the more I felt the weight of what I had unearthed. I could feel the roots of my obsession tightening around my mind. My family, who had once mocked me, learned of my success through headlines and social media. They watched as I became a figure shrouded in both accolades and dread, yet they never reached out. Perhaps their pride was too bruised, or perhaps they were too afraid of the truths I had come to embody. Eventually, I returned home, my heart heavy with both vindication and a creeping sense of dread. I stood before the house that had once been my prison, the very place where I had been ridiculed for my passion. I felt the echo of my past reverberate through the air, thick with the scent of betrayal. They welcomed me with forced smiles, the remnants of their previous disdain cloaked in a thin veil of humility. "You've done well for yourself," my mother said, her voice trembling with an emotion I couldn't pinpoint. Was it pride or fear? "Come, let's have dinner," my sister added, but I could see the tension brimming beneath her surface. Dinner was a strained affair, punctuated by awkward silences and hesitant glances. They wanted to know about my work, about the accolades, but I felt it necessary to warn them. "You don't understand the weight of what I've seen," I said, my voice steady yet laced with urgency. "The plants, they harbor the souls of the tormented. It's not just science, it's a curse. The pain of those who've perished seeps into the ground, and it affects everything around it." Laughter erupted from my brother, sharp and cruel, cutting through my warning like a knife. "Still going on about that nonsense? You're making it sound like some horror story." I felt a sudden chill, as though the air had shifted. The shadows in the room seemed to deepen, and I sensed the weight of unseen eyes resting upon us. I swallowed hard, clenching my fists under the table. "You don't understand what you're mocking." But they didn't listen. They continued to dismiss my words, their laughter echoing in my ears until I could bear it no longer. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor, and stormed outside into the cold night air. I needed to breathe, to gather my thoughts. But as I stepped into the garden, I felt it, the thick, suffocating presence of the plants surrounding me, their roots reaching out in silent acknowledgement. That was when I heard it, a low, mournful wail, as if the very earth was crying out in anguish. My heart raced as I turned back to the house, where my family had gone silent, their laughter replaced by something darker. I rushed inside, my pulse quickening with dread. The living room was cloaked in shadows, the flowers from the garden swaying unnaturally, whispering secrets I could not comprehend. My family stood frozen, their faces pale, eyes wide in horror. "What's wrong?" I demanded, but the room answered with a heavy silence. Then, one by one, their expressions morphed into terror as they glanced toward the corner where shadows twisted and writhed. From the darkness emerged a figure, not quite human, but not entirely a plant. Its form was an amalgamation of roots and flesh, a grotesque embodiment of the pain I had spent years studying. It bore the faces of the forgotten, the souls absorbed into the soil, each one crying out in agony. I watched as my family recoiled, their disbelief shattered by the undeniable reality standing before them. "You mocked what you did not understand," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the cacophony of despair. "This is the truth I tried to show you." The creature moved closer, the air thick with sorrow and regret. I felt its pain, the weight of its existence pressing upon me, and I knew that I was now bound to this darkness, the keeper of its secrets. As the horror unfolded, I realized my family was no longer my family. They were witnesses to the consequences of their disbelief, trapped in a moment of reckoning. Their laughter had summoned this darkness, and now it was theirs to face. The last thing I heard was my mother's anguished scream as the shadows enveloped them, their disbelief consumed by the very roots they had scorned. I stood in the doorway, a chilling sense of vindication filling my heart, yet a profound sadness lingered in the corners of my mind. I had become something they could never understand, an expert and a prisoner of the dark knowledge I had unearthed. As I turned to leave, I felt the weight of the world shift around me. I was the keeper of the bone orchard now, destined to bear witness to the pain that thrived beneath the soil. In the end, it was not just about proving them wrong. It was about the price of their disbelief, a burden I would carry alone, surrounded by the ghostly whispers of the tortured souls that now called me home.